Okay, good afternoon, welcome back. Turns out there is one small thing that I want to talk about. And it comes from my conversation with Tom this morning about the concerns the responsibility of the responsibility and relationship of the individual human being to humanity as a whole, and the way in which that operates. You see, I don't see anything wrong. The fact that I say that the work that we do to try to fix and repair ourselves is beside the point and does not get to the heart of the problem, and therefore is a waste of time until the core problem is resolved. Doesn't mean that I think that there's not useful things that we do as human beings to repair and correct certain disabilities and misunderstandings and antisocial ways of behaving and things like that. These characteristics and aspects, they arise in compliance with the desperate need to do something to assure personal salvation and personal satisfaction. And when they are saturated with that perceived urgent need for personal salvation as their reason for occurring, they don't work very well. We are not very good, not very skillful, when what we are doing is trying to save ourselves from the imagined horrors of human life, or what's going to happen to me tomorrow, or whether I'm smart or stupid or loved or hated or whatever. We just aren't very skillful. We have too much confusion, there's too much confusion. But some of these things can be quite useful. I mean, anything that makes life better, more enjoyable, easier, is useful and has value. And that includes therapeutic measures and all the other practices and techniques that we've evolved over the years to try to fix ourselves. It's just when they're deployed in order to solve this fundamental problem that they get to be kind of useless and ineptly applied. Well, the same is true for humanity at large. What's true for the individual human being is also true for humanity at large, pretty much across the board. There isn't much difference except for the population between the human conundrum, the human paradox, the human predicament, and the predicament of humanity. There's not much difference except for the fact that humanity has a larger population than right here in this particular life. So that just as it is the case that efforts expended to try to ease and unravel our inclination to aggression or to addiction or to any of the other things that we have done over the centuries, trying to find an answer, trying to find a solution, trying to get safe, trying to get satisfied. When the sense of personal urgency departs, then we become more skillful at everything we do. Everything we do, we become more skillful because we're not burdened and corrupted with this craziness that has no reality to it. The same is true for the creature of humanity. We are, if we look around, there is a great deal of movement and excitement and urgency present among the population of humanity to on the one hand, to put an end to the reckless disregard that we have for the effect that we're having on the planet and the atmosphere and so forth. And on the other hand, to try to put an end to those who are trying to put an end to my ability and right to become more and more rich and more filled with things and artifacts and so forth. When this idiocy of the sense that we are somehow at stake here, in danger here, that we're missing something, that we may never get something, when that departs, whether it is in the individual human creature or in humanity at large, when that departs from humanity at large, then those things that have not been useful or effective or helpful or positive, they just kind of don't show up anymore. The things that are useful and helpful and effective, they acquire a new level of skillfulness that is unimaginable when we are still trying to clamber out of the desperate state of being trapped here in this life, trapped here in this mind. So what I'm suggesting and what I'm trying to clarify is the fact that all of these efforts, whether they be political or community-based or scientific or anything whatsoever, all of these efforts to try to reform and fix and correct the inclination of humanity to rush headlong to its own disaster, these things are these efforts become more skillful and more effective in a way that we really can't imagine. They're just clean. When they're clean, they're effective. When they're burdened down with a lie, they're ineffective. So, just as in the case, like we know several people who have some profound personal issues and psychological issues and psychiatric issues. And just as it is the case that for those people we know who are afflicted with that kind of disability, it turns out that once this idea that they are at stake and that it is fundamentally vital to their own survival, to their own existence, to do something about this, once that's gone, they actually get pretty good at using the devices and the techniques and the things that are available to us to help us in these things. And it's the same with humanity at large. When humanity at large rids itself of this idea, it won't take much time at all to clean up the mess that we've made. Because it's no big deal. It really isn't. The big deal is this idea that I'm at stake here, I'm in danger here, and you might be a problem to me. That's the big deal. When that goes, the rest of it's no big deal. And I just wanted to clarify the fact that I don't hold with the idea I don't hold with the idea that there's nothing whatsoever that people can do to better themselves or to better the world that they live in or to better the position of humanity in the world that we live in. I don't hold with that idea at all. What we can do is rid ourselves of the lie, and everything else will turn out right. Everything will turn out right. So, see, I didn't have much to say. So, once again, it's your turn. I'll just sit here and wait until somebody wants to speak. Hello, Nancy. Very well, you? What a shock to see you walk in. Pleasant. So I'll just wait. It's Michelle. Hi, Michelle. You too? Notebooks? This is becoming
It was in case I forgot when I got up here.
It's okay. I don't mind taking notes. None of that stuff is.
So there are some questions that I know are irrelevant in the big picture.
It's not necessary to make obeisance to the idea that they're irrelevant.
All
We'll
right.
see whether they're irrelevant or not. I'll decide whether they're irrelevant.
Okay, you decide. First of all, I wanted to know, is Carla fearlessly free?
Carla is fearless, fearless, fearless. You can't imagine how heroic and fearless Carla is.
Yay, Carla. Okay, let's see. How often do you see people become completely free?
More often than you might imagine. It is the norm, not the exception. Now, when I say that, about what I am referring to is that it is the norm for people who embark on this, who actually try this out, that what transpires is exactly what I predict will transpire, and that those who see it through to the end, and everybody sees it through to the end, but those in whom I have seen it work its way through to the end, all come back with the same report. I couldn't have imagined that this was so easy. I mean, there's really nothing to it. It's no big deal.
Why don't I see those people in my world? I see the insane people believing their thoughts.
Well,
not becoming free.
that's because we don't have a lot of we don't have the reach that I wish I had. If I could reach into your world, I would do so.
So what is there a word or something that you phrase when one becomes completely free, like enlightened or
Nah.
awakened, or
Normal.
was there a
Natural.
point for you?
Natural.
Natural.
The point for me came before I knew it. It was gone before I knew
Before
it.
you realized it?
Yeah. I began to realize, I'll tell you when I began to really realize it. You know, because it's normal for the human mind, as it has grown, developed, and acquired its opinions and its ideas and so forth. It's natural for it to not notice this kind of thing. It's still busy noticing, trying to figure out what's wrong and so forth, even when it is apparent that there's nothing wrong.
I'm noticing that with myself.
Yes, but I can tell you when it really dawned on me how unexpected and how total the outcome of this work is when I was in prison for 18 and a half years. And when I had been in prison for about 15 years, I had my last parole hearing and was denied parole. And since the parole hearings are only 4 years apart, it was less than 4 years before I was released. And this is because in the federal system at that time, you need a little bit of background to understand the circumstance. In the federal system at that time, there was a thing called mandatory release, which held that no matter what else happened, if you didn't make parole before then, when you completed successfully 2/3 of your sentence without losing time or being punished or so forth, that then you would be released on mandatory parole. That the most you could do is 2/3 of your time, as long as you didn't go crazy inside, right? So I knew that at 18 and a half years, I would have completed 2/3 of my time. And as that date approached, I noticed that I really didn't have any attachment to any of it. That I would remember that it was the case that this release date was approaching, but it was no big deal. I mean, it really wasn't like, oh, I'm going to get out. And at that time, I didn't know what I was going to do. I was just going to be thrown out on the street, with no place to go and nothing to do. And there was none of that. It was just no big deal. And that took me by surprise. And then, on the day of my release, I'd like to tell you these, practical things, not just ooga booga stuff, right? On the day of my release, they take you to R&D, receiving discharge. And there you dress out. You get your street clothes, and then you wait to be taken by the shuttle to the bus station and so forth. Well, you see, I was not very popular among the authorities. I had an extremely dramatic history with the authorities.
In prison or outside?
Outside of prison.
Okay.
But I escaped from prison. I was on the 10 most wanted list. It was and that's bizarre.
It's bizarre that I'm sitting next to you.
So, as with me, the people who were in charge of implementing my release, of making it happen, were really bummed out that it could be this easy for me, right? That I could get out so soon with so little trouble. Seemed like there ought to be something there that made it possible for them to hold me. So, on the day of my release, the manager of receiving a discharge, who was off, came back to the institution early that morning in order to go through my jacket, and my jacket's like this thick, right? It's a bunch of paperwork. To go through it piece by piece, looking for some way to keep me. And I, in the meantime, sat in a holding cell for 3 or 4 hours, waiting for this decision to be made. And in all that time, it was nothing. It was so of no consequence what that decision was that I kind of took a nap and just waited. I really had no idea what was going to happen, but it really was no big deal. It was just nothing. And it was then that it dawned on me how powerful this was. What a unbelievable effect. This is not like enlightenment or, but this is solid and real. It's not, so that's what.
I had an experience coming here. Friday morning, my girlfriend asked, she's, "Are you excited to go to your retreat?" And I said, I don't have any expectations one way or the other. Not usual.
Mm-hmm. Yes, right. That's right.
Whatever happens, happens. But I didn't have high expectations. I didn't have low ones either. But
that's right. Yeah, just like me getting out of prison.
But I didn't used to be that way.
Nor did I. So there you are.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay. My curious mind wants to know, in relating to others, can you see kind of like ever through people or their thoughts or their feelings or any of that special senses? You get nothing?
No.
Not a thing?
No.
You're just completely normal as the rest of us?
Just as normal as apple pie.
I was hoping for something. Okay, let's see.
My attention is not cluttered.
Okay.
You appear in my attention clean and uncluttered by any...
Okay. Let's see. Most of the people that I'm aware of becoming free become satsang teachers or become teachers. Has that been your experience?
I don't know what part of that question you want me to answer. I mean, that's a question that's fraught with possibilities.
Is this my destiny right here? Am I going to be sitting here if it all lets go?
Unless you get lucky, baby. I mean, it depends on how lucky you are.
I only know of people that my experience is pretty much YouTube and Eckhart Tolle books.
Yeah, well,
And so
that's
that's
not
all
true.
I've
That's
seen.
not true.
That's all
See?
my
You
experiences.
see, that's not true. Your experience mostly consists of your experience of you. That's what your experience consists of. It doesn't consist of Eckhart Tolle or YouTube videos of satsang teachers or even YouTube videos of this guy jagging away. Your experience consists of you. The rest of it just comes and goes within you. Has no effect on you. Now, it is certainly the case, and I am aware of it. I should have taken that. And I am aware of it, that, and in fact, since you ask, I'm just going to tell you facts of it, okay? I remember that when I was enlightened, I remember being enlightened. And I remember that when I was enlightened, it seemed to me that was inevitable. That a mark of enlightenment was that you were a teacher. And if you weren't a teacher, then you were an aspirant and therefore not enlightened. That the thing that distinguished those who were enlightened and awake were those who were the ones who were teachers. That seemed to me to be the case. So, of course, when I was enlightened, I thought, well, I'm going to be a teacher. And since I was kind of Gangaji's pet, it seemed that the fast track was open to me to go and become an enlightened teacher, a guru, one of the mass of wandering Advaita Vedanta, roadies that wander the land talking to us. But then when I became unenlightened, I actually discovered for myself the reality and the actuality of the situation. Then I didn't want to be a teacher. The last thing in the world I wanted to do, because it was clear to me that all of that was of no avail, that nobody was helping anybody by the endless repetition and variations on the various ways of speaking about non-dual reality and Advaita Vedanta and all of that. That nobody was actually being helped. And the more time I spent on the outside around people who were doing that, coming to be helped and enlightened and so forth by non-dual teachers, the more I saw that was the case. Nobody's being helped. People were actually receiving a greater burden, more things to wonder whether this one's true or that one's true. more empty choices to present it as to whether I can get it from this guy or I can get it from this one. Whether I need to understand this first or I need to understand that first. And since it was clear to me from my own experience that none of that was necessary, the last thing I wanted to do was join this band of jolly, wandering, teachers. Not that there's anything wrong with it. Unfortunately, in my case, I couldn't find anything else to do.
And it's working for you.
Well, yeah, it is. It is. Although I resisted it, I fought it every step of the way. Even in the absence of any sense of being at stake, the last thing I wanted to do was to be doing this. And the biggest reason for that, when it began to happen, was because I knew that I saw things very clearly, but I had no way to speak about them apart from the normal vernacular of the spiritual venue.
Would that be life continuing to teach you?
Continuing
to teach you. Since
to what?
continuing to teach you, as you didn't want to become a teacher, and
Yeah.
and so you had to say, it's not the way you plan things to go, it's the way it just unfolds.
Yes, that's
Kind
right.
of like that Disneyland ride.
That's right.
Where you think you're driving the car,
That's right.
and you think you're driving life,
That's right.
and it's going to go that way anyway.
It's like you're driving a ship and the helm isn't attached to anything.
Yeah.
But you think it is. And
And the more that I buy into that, the better, easier my life is going.
oh, sure.
That I don't think I'm controlling things.
But you must see that there's no way you can persuade yourself of that. That apperception arises naturally as the fear begins to fade.
Good.
That sense just arises naturally. That's your natural state. Your natural state is to see things clearly, to see things as they are, not to be confused by them.
Well, now that I thoroughly get that, and then I tell other people, they look at me like I'm crazy.
It's okay. Look at me like I'm crazy too.
Okay. Thank you. That's enough questions for now, huh?
It's okay. People have these questions. People are curious, and
I could go one more. Let's see. Do you ever or what do you most dislike about your life or being John Sherman?
nothing.
That's what I was hoping you'd say.
Nothing. I am absolutely blown away by how wonderful it is to be in this life, to be as John Sherman.
That was the right answer. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So I got an A. It is natural, this kind of curiosity, especially as it is kind of fed by the mythical nature of our relationship with people who seem to have something that we don't have. The kind of our bestowing of some mythic power or state upon them. This is what we do. It's not them. Really, it's not them. It's us. And that invocation of mythical power just occludes our vision, just gets in the way of seeing reality. We must see for ourselves. We must see for ourselves. And if whether the teacher is awake or asleep, smart or stupid, whatever, we must see for ourselves. No one can give this to you. No one. No one can take it away from you either. Okay? Anybody else? Roberta.
Hi, John.
Hi, Roberta.
Last night, after our small group and after the day yesterday, I had, what was being perceived as I was having a difficult time. I was walking back to my room. I felt very nauseated. I said to Mo, I feel sick, and I was crying, and I said, I'm okay. We went back to the room, and I'll try to tell what I want to tell without telling the whole thing, because I don't think it's necessary. Eventually, as the night went on, I experienced something that I think is helpful to me. I experienced you said last night and today you were talking about self-hatred. Hatred.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult thing for me to hear because I've been aware of how much I hate myself for a very, very long time, maybe my whole life. So I take that in as another way to hate myself. So I was really captured in a lot of difficulty last night. And I was experiencing a lot of embarrassment and shame and other feelings. And I was lying down last night, and I had this moment when, how do I explain this? I saw that, I can't even say that this happened in my life. That's a funny thing to say. It could have been when I was young, I don't know. It could have not been. It could just be something. That something, and this is similar to what I think you talk about fear, and wanting to be safe. But this was wanting to be loved. So I saw this thing where someone was aware that it wasn't loved. And I already realized that awareness was a mistake. And so, but I continued to watch. So I don't know if you guys have this experience where you are having an inner, it'd be as if you were watching inside yourself, like you see out here. I think sometimes it might be called active imagination. So you're not having a fantasy, like a fantasy, I'm going to go on a vacation, and you imagine what it's like, and you can get pictures in your head. This is more like an experience that rises internally, and it almost takes over your external sight. So, and it plays itself out. So this was playing itself out, and I realized, I've never realized this before, and this particular phenomena, it doesn't matter what the phenomena it was, that the moment when I saw this person doing something to try to get loved, it wasn't even about what it was trying to do, that, oh, don't do that, do this thing. It was already a mistake.
Yes, that's right.
And in seeing that, I was really exhausted last night as well. So this exhaustion was probably, when you have the flu and you're so sick it feels like nirvana, because you just can't fight anymore. You're just done with. And so I saw it that I was watching this, that in this particular thing, which is going to be love, could be talking about fear too, that I have spent at least 50% of my time trying to get me to be different so I could get loved.
Yes.
The other 50% I've spent trying to get someone else or life to be different so they would love me.
Yes, that's very excellent. That's
so I saw that, and then I also saw how fragmented that is. That somebody was telling me that I wasn't lovable, even though, it wasn't really in language. But who was telling me I wasn't lovable? It was me telling me I'm not lovable, or
Indeed.
me telling me I'm afraid, or me telling me.
Indeed.
So it's already, the fragmentation is begun.
Yes, that's right. Very prior to that even.
Yeah.
Yes, prior to that.
Yes. And so I felt stunned by this, watching this. And then I also started, thinking about many relationships I've had, and I thought, wow, that's what I've done in all of them. My parents, my siblings, my friends, my lovers, we're in this thing trying to get it to be, we're trying to solve this thing. That's what
right.
you're talking about. When I saw that last night, and I saw how it was going nowhere. Somebody said the gerbil cage. She was talking about the gerbil cage. It was, I suppose, this is what I wanted to say. There was something that came along almost that was there with me as I was witnessing this sort of active imagination thing happen, and I realized, oddly enough, it was also part of the fracturing. So I could say that, maybe in psychological terms, I don't even know if they do this in psychological terms, that a witness came, or a good parent, or the part of me that can take care of me came. It did, but even it wasn't
No,
this.
it's the sense of ironic detachment that we spoke of. That's what it is. And it feels like a thing that works.
Yeah.
And that's why it is so powerful when it begins to have the rug pulled out from under it. Ironic detachment is extremely rich in its power. Yes, I see that.
I think that that's been quite powerful, specifically for me. I'm sure.
I think so too.
I'm sure it's something that happens for everyone, but I think particular this structure,
Yes.
this nervous system, this mind, this something has been really affected by that. And I think that's why I have a sense of, not in the classic way that many people have heard of, I feel I'm beside myself, but I've desperately spoken often of how I don't exist.
Yeah.
That I can't get in my life. And you talk about that, and I've had this other active imagination that's happened ever since I was a child of, it's a stimulus response that you say, that I have this thing that rises in intense moments when I kill myself in my active imagination in a variety of ways. One of the one that comes most often is a firing squad. So I am lined up, and there's about 10 of me with guns, and they kill me. And this has happened ever since I was very young, and it comes, and it's really difficult. And one time when I was in this, the similar thing rose where something came to help me, that it dawned on me that I was shooting myself, so who was going to be left after I got shot? It was going to be me with all the guns standing there, and I can't tell you the despair I fell into after that, because I went, fuck, I can't kill myself. I can't get out of this.
That's right.
I can't even do that to escape myself. And in that moment, it seemed like, it was one of those moments that broke open where, people could get excited about this. I didn't, because I was in so much despair, where I saw that thing that I guess people could talk about. They could talk about, what's it called, reincarnation or heaven and hell. I had this awareness that I wasn't ever born and I'm not going to ever die. And I don't mean to say that, that's in a really cool way I saw that. I saw that it flashed and it was difficult. And I really fell into a lot of despair. But it was also a good thing that happened, because I realized I can't kill myself. And it's still all part of the fragmentation. So even in the most helpful, most significant, it's just what you were saying, even in the most significant, enlightened or therapeutic way to help me with how fragmented and aside myself I've been, it can only go so far.
This is just a further aspect of the whole show.
Yeah, and it's been this last few days that I've had, when I talked about Friday, when I said, this has always happened to me, but I just didn't know it. That's this knowing my true nature has always been happening to me, like it's always been happening to everybody. I'm starting to know it more this 3 days.
This is great news. I'm happy.
The fantastic news, the absolutely fantastic news is seeing this part. I've never seen this before. This other part of it, what is getting cleaned up in it.
Yes.
And I can see the difference, so that I don't have to go in there to the cleaning up.
That's right. You don't have to get down there with the scrub brushes. No.
That's astounding.
It is. It's stunning.
So I know I'm repeating what you said, but I'm experiencing it that I don't have to solve it. So last night when I was lying in bed, I was telling this to Mo later on, I was so exhausted, and this thing rose in me. It's a lifelong exhaustion. And all this agitation was going on as I was laying there. And I was laying there and I said, I just have to rest. I have to rest. And I've never, it was as if in that moment last night, the truest thing that could happen for the circumstance, the relative truth in that moment was for me to sleep.
That's right.
For me to rest. And it rose up and I said, I'm going to put my attention on this. I've never done that before. So I'm just going to put my attention on rest and see if this deep shame, if this deep fear, if this deep agitation can just settle. And it did.
Of course.
It did. And so I saw that all of these things that usually I would lay there and I would think, how do I get rid of this shame? How do I get rid of this embarrassment? How do I get rid of this difficulty I'm now feeling with John because of the way I acted? And I just said, I don't know. I'm too exhausted. Rest. And I did. And I saw that I don't have to solve it. And it wasn't just an intellectual discussion with you.
That's right.
About it. So it was, it was that.
And here you are.
Mm-hmm.
One of the and I don't think I've ever spoken about it, although it certainly is a vivid part of my own experience, the need for love. And in fact, it's probably the case that with me, perhaps as with you, the way in which this search for a solution mostly tended was toward trying to become loved, trying to become lovable, trying to get love. Love was the answer. And of course, that's just one more of the strategies, one more of the apparatuses that get deployed looking for a solution. The thing with love is that it is so universally desirable that it's very strong, but it never works. This is great. I'm really happy you came here to this retreat.
Yes.
I am.
It's, I'll say this last thing. I said this to Mo at lunch. I was talking about, this is a common thing that's said, so I'm just going to say it, and maybe we can work through it. The fear or the love, I'll stick with the love. It's commonly said that we're love, or that you don't have to try to get love or give love because you can't, that it's just there. And I saw that last night in this fragmentation. I'm trying to get something that I already am, sort of. Oh, and I could see that. And then I also realized that is a step, I don't know what the word is, step away from my true nature. That
Yes.
my true nature isn't even love. It isn't even, what would be the opposite of fear? Safety, something like
Yeah.
It isn't even that. That's it's a step. It's not that.
Yes, that's right. And I'll tell you something else about love. All the things that we think about love are made up. They are part and parcel. They are contaminated by the fact that our search for love actually is energized by the fear. And we have, as a species, concocted numerous gorgeous scenarios in which love conquers all. I'm going to tell you something about true love. True love doesn't care. That's a fact. It's not an emotion. The fact of love is that it doesn't care. That's what makes it love. It has no preference. It has no involvement. It has no interest in what it is that appears, comes, and goes within it. It cares not. That's love. That's you.
It's just what you were saying, and about all the attempts we make. I said to Mo, I said, my God, the desperate, sacred, heroic, extraordinary attempts I've made to love and be loved.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is blessed and heroic and extraordinary.
Yes, that's right.
And it's desperate, and it's so, I mean, it just makes, it's compassion when I look at that. I feel unbelievable compassion for that effort, for that
right.
And it is nothing.
It's nothing.
It's
That's right.
nothing. It's beside the point. And when I
It has affected nothing.
no,
It itself is the effect. The search for love is an effect. It affects
Yeah.
nothing.
yeah. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. That's a hard act to follow. Who's next? Peter, and then Mo. Some kind of an allergy to something up here. If I do a flow nase, it doesn't happen. Just didn't do it.
I was just there feeling how grateful I am to be here.
Well, me too. Peter.
And, I kind of came here, I was glad to come here. But I really wasn't sure what was going to happen. And I really feel very affirmed with where I've been and what's been going on. And a fabulous review of this process is much better than it was. We haven't been in a relationship for a couple of years. So it's much simpler
Yes, it is. It's much
and much more
cleaner.
direct, and it's not nearly as spiritual as it used to be.
Yes, I know. I see that to be the case. It's and I'm very, the thing that is very difficult in the spiritual arena to even consider is that the teacher itself, whatever it is, whoever it is that is considered to be the teacher, is always in a state of unfolding. This is person. It's always in the state of unfolding. It's always in a state of either becoming clearer or more murky. Really, we are indoctrinated, I think, by religion mostly, by the idea of the infallibility of God and the infallibility of religion that it derives from being concerned with God and the ubiquity of religion in our society. But we're indoctrinated to think that if there is ever a case when somebody has something serious to offer on as profound an issue as the nature of reality and the possibility for the individual human creature to see directly for themselves things as they are, there's an expectation that whatever is uttered in the first moments will stay the same forever. That there is something sacred and not subject to being evolving or changing. And if that is not the case, then it's not authentic. And that has some really pernicious effects on all our attempts as a species, as a bunch of human beings, to actually discover reality and discover what's what for ourselves. Because it's not that the teachers themselves necessarily hold this view, but we are not separate from each other. And if we impose upon the teacher the expectation that the way that they see things today and the way that they articulate things today must remain the same forever and ever, amen, then we're cheating ourselves and we're cheating them. It's just not true. It's it's very clear. It's been clear to me for some time. For some time I have been purposely striving without, a whole bunch of weird shit about it, but purposely striving to clarify, to become clear, to abandon the things that I know as I speak of them are not helpful. I know as I speak of them, they are just the same old, same old. All is one, we all love, we're all this, we're all that, we're all the other thing. Be still, be quiet, call off the search, accept everything, don't resist. I've been striving for some time. By striving, I mean just being really attentive, trying to see with language, with speech, what it is that I actually see. And I'm happy to hear that my efforts are bearing fruit. And I'm happy to see that I see that, and I'm happy for that. I'm very pleased and grateful for the patience of everybody that has followed me for all of these years on this particular trek. And so yeah, glad to hear it.
Thank you. I mean, I've kind of slipped this way myself, and I come here, to a non-spiritual approach, I come here and I find, wow. It's a real confirmation and a real...
Yes, that's right.
Thank you.
That's right. Our reality isn't spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
Spiritual is a story about reality. Reality isn't spiritual. Reality is you. You're not spiritual, you're just you. And spirituality and religious expression and all of that, and religious desires, spiritual aspirations, they're all quite beautiful in the sense that art is quite beautiful, and the way they move and speak, and it becomes quite beautiful. But it has nothing to do with what's real. It's just talk. There's nothing wrong with it. Just is not helpful. Not helpful. If it is helpful at all, it is helpful only to the extent that it encourages within us desire and a curiosity to see for ourselves what in the world all this is about. But other than that, it's not helpful. That curiosity is already here. That's all we're ever doing, is trying to see for ourselves what it's all about. And I do think also that the spiritual, I'll tell you something else that's really helpful. It's really helpful to see the bubble in which you find yourself in a historical perspective. In other words, if we are caught in a spiritual bubble in which everything has a spiritual connotation, in which we make a spiritual reference to everything whatsoever that we see and want and don't want and so forth, that's a spiritual bubble. And together, all of us in the spiritual bubble are in what I call the spiritual ghetto. And when you're inside this bubble and inside this ghetto, it's really difficult to see anything. It's really, really hard to see anything. And the spiritual ghetto is, among all of them, the worst, the most difficult, the most intransigent, the spiritual understanding. And the funny thing about it is that this new appearance of radical spirituality, right, the Advaita Vedanta view and so forth, this new arising of it is new. I mean, it's not like this has been going on for thousands and thousands of years and now this is just the natural outcome of it. A couple thousand years ago, the active, alive, vivid adventure of searching for a spiritual solution settled into religion. And it has been that way pretty much ever since. Until just recently. Probably until Ramana and Nisargadatta, who are two heroes. They're not spiritual. They don't have any other language to work with, but they're not spiritual. And I've learned that seeing this activity in a historical perspective, seeing how all over the world the same rise and fall of spiritual impulse and spiritual curiosity and spiritual adventure, and then the settling of it into religion, how this occurred all over the world, pretty much at the same time. Not just in India, in Greece, in Turkey, and everywhere. In the Middle East, in China, everywhere. And it's quite helpful. It's quite sobering to see it as one human activity among all the other human activities, instead of the be-all and end-all of human beings, that we're at the pinnacle of the exalted possibilities of human consideration. So there.
Thank you very much.
Is that, yeah, you don't disagree with that, right? And again, I don't think that what I have seen and what I have brought here and what my life now consists in any way is either a further development on some previously developed understanding of things, nor is it a repudiation of those things. It's something entirely different. Entirely different. It seems to have some similarities to spiritual aspiration and attainment, but that's just a seeming. It's completely different. It's something new, something unlike anything else, something that repudiates nothing and elaborates nothing. It's you. What could be simpler than that? What could be less fraught than that? So, there. You're back.
Back so soon.
It's good to hear you. You're always welcome.
Thanks.
Still like that hat.
Yeah, you're not getting it. I've never understood the term awakening, and I don't think I need to. But when you say when you were awake and you laugh, I laugh. But it got me curious too. I wonder what John's actually talking about.
What I'm talking about when I say I used to be enlightened, or I used to be awake, what I'm talking about was the fact that I went through a year's time when I lived in literal bliss. And everything was so beautiful. It was arrayed like nothing you can imagine. It was jewel-like and sparkling and liquid, and everything had significance, and I saw everything, and I had everything. I was filled with this bliss, this wonder, this state. Of course, I wasn't filled with the state. I was kind of entranced by the state. The state came and went within me. But that's what I'm speaking of. I wrote once to Gangaji during that period of time that the stones sing silent arias of being. That's the kind of claptrap that really seemed to be the case. I mean, I wasn't making it up. That's the way I felt. I would see the stones on the thing, and it seemed like they were just vibrating and scintillating and transmitting the music of the spheres. I was just in love with everything. Everyone's in love with the cops, in love with everything.
And the main difference in the no big dealness is what? Because you're still in love with everything.
I'm not. When I say in love, I'm speaking about the neurotic state of being in love.
Okay.
That's what I'm speaking of. I have no neurotic attachment to anything in particular these days. I am really, really happy to see everything. And I am really unconcerned when it all disappears from view. And that's not, and that requires no maintenance, right? Whereas this state of being in love, that requires constant maintenance, even if you're hiding it from yourself. It requires constant maintenance. Yeah. And then it went away and left me. You know, the reason I can say with such certainty, I'm sorry about this, I seem to be allergic to some plant that's up here because I only get this when I come up here, and I have been trying to remember to take some anti-allergy medication, but I didn't do so. So forgive me for causing this trouble. What was I talking about? I don't know. Oh yeah. The reason I can say with such certainty that the huge melodrama that attends most spiritual aspiration, that huge yearning and fullness and loss and aching heart need for that, all of that, dark nights of the soul, you know, the void, the annihilation, all of that stuff, that's all nothing. Nothing. It is effect. It is phenomenal arising. It is nothing. And the reason I can say that with such certainty is because I doubt very few people have been more stupid in the descent into hell than I was. I mean, there may be those who are as stupid, but I doubt that there are many who are more stupid. So nothing can happen in that regard that I am unfamiliar with. And so that when I say that is beside the point, it's not just theoretical, it's from having seen that directly for myself in the heart of hell, in the dark night of the soul, in the you know, all of that. And God, what a spectacle I made of myself. But turned out all right.
That was helpful.
Good.
I haven't had any of the enlightenment then, if that's what it is, but I've had the no big deal, and it feels really simple.
No big deal. It's a lot better.
It's good.
Yes,
Like-
it really is.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, anybody else? Shankar?
Back again.
You're back again. It's okay, you're welcome.
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to probably share a little bit of effects of maybe looking at myself. Yesterday night I was sitting in my bed and just closed my eyes, and I was just, kind of being with myself. Maybe just 15 minutes or so passed by, and I felt so very contented, actually. Very contented. Like around 9 o'clock, I just wanted to go to bed. So full contented, and I just slept at 9 o'clock. I used to sleep at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock. I'm never like a, like an early night guy, but 12 o'clock, 9 o'clock, I was just so contented. Slept like a baby, actually.
That's a good story. I like that.
And probably, and some other time when I sit quietly, trying to do nothing or just looking at myself, I just feel that I don't have any body at all. Like, just it's kind of everything kind of dissolved, or nothing, no hands, body, anything like that. But still, I feel that there is something. That is, the thoughts are going, but I don't feel anything. But there's a strong of something, nameless thing. There for a while, but then when I open again, I'm back to the normal
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's, then this is not, like, I kind of hesitate to go off on these kind of trips, but I do anyway, so. The body is a thought. The body that we are aware of is a thought. It is that we have no direct experience whatsoever with the body. What we have are sensations and, movements and so forth that somehow in the brain get assigned their proper definitions. This is my leg, this is my knee, this is my head, and so forth. But really, we're not experiencing body. We're not experiencing legs and arms and whatever all these things are. This is all theoretical, that there is actually a body that conforms to what I think I am feeling in my mind. So the body is a thought. Insofar as we know, there's no evidence, really, there's no evidence whatsoever that there is such a thing. There's no evidence that there's a brain. It's all inference. It's all inference that derives from the persistence of certain sensational aspects and characteristics, and the way in which they conform to what we would expect the body to do. So it's not surprising that there are times when it feels like there is no body. Those are times when the thought processes that are active, forever producing the sense of priocentrism and the sense of a body and a hand and skin and so forth, when those just kind of go to sleep or rest. When those thought processes are not active, then for all you know, there is no body.
Yeah, it feels so true because it's the same thing that
Yeah.
happens in the dream also. I mean, like I go to bed in the night
That's right.
and I'm like somewhere, wherever I am, but I
Yeah.
don't feel myself.
Yes, right.
And so where does the body go? And
Yeah.
again, that's unconsciously when I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
When I'm consciously sitting there, the same kind of thing happens. And when so it just
Yeah, and these things are things that we don't notice when we are wrapped up in the desperate need to find love or to find freedom from fear. And it's really true that the search for love is even more powerfully present and ubiquitous than, well, at least as powerfully present and ubiquitous as denial in our strategies for trying to solve this problem. Love will solve it. But these things are they're of no significance. And I mean, they really are no significance. The fact that sometimes it can feel as if there's no body, and sometimes it can feel as if there is body. And it's the absence of this endless churning effort to get right that they get noticed. And the reason they don't get noticed is because they really don't mean anything. It's no big deal. Oh, I felt like I didn't have a body. I couldn't find any sense of a body. Oh well. And they're taken up in the spiritual arena to have great meaning,
yeah,
to have great significance,
yeah,
right?
that's what
To be proof of one proposition about the nature of reality or another, or disproof of something, or they're imbued with great significance. Everything is imbued with great significance by us spiritual folks. Everything. Every breath we take. Breath. And it's just part of this endless effort to make sense of things, to figure things out, to get a handle on it, to be what I need to be. That's what it is, all that. Now you can just enjoy it.
yeah.
Yeah.
No meaning attached to it whatsoever.
No meaning attached to it, no significance attached to it. It's just part of the endless parade of phenomena.
That's very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of cleared off stuff. Because I was trying to attach a meaning to it.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes when I sit for a while and then like yesterday night, I tend to, after sitting for a while, I tend to fall asleep. Just want to sleep for a while and then, kind of get up and then, do my day's activity or whatever. Is that normal? It's like, is that okay? Or
What was it?
I just sit for a while and
Yeah.
then I
You
feel
want to go
sleepy.
to sleep?
I
and
want
then
to
you
go to
don't
sleep.
go to sleep.
What is that?
And then you...
I go to sleep actually.
Oh, you do go to sleep?
Yeah, I just...
Oh, sleep is wonderful. Sleep is... I have nothing against sleep. Believe me. Naps, I have always thought, are life's great consolation.
Yeah, because I was always, kind of thought that, I'm sitting for, like an active observance, but observing, myself or watching. And then after that, I'm going to sleep. I'm like, I want to sleep for a little bit and then get up. It's like,
But that all comes from the sense that there's a right way to proceed in the adventure of life and a wrong way to proceed in the adventure of life.
That's correct, yeah.
Right, and this is a component of the adventure of life, this sitting.
Yeah.
So the right way to proceed with this component in the adventure of life is to be alert and attentive and inward and all of that.
Exactly, yeah, that's what I...
And the wrong way is to go to sleep.
But I like the wrong way to go to sleep.
Glad we got that straight. Isn't it funny? The wrong way seems always to be the things that are most
It's
pleasant.
so natural. That's very helpful.
These things just arise.
Yeah.
I mean, we sit and that just has occurred, and we go to sleep and that has just occurred, and there is a deep-seated, habitual movement to claim that.
Yeah.
Either to claim it by saying I'm sinful because I went to sleep,
Yeah.
or to claim it by saying I'm a good person because I didn't go to sleep.
Yeah.
But it's always this movement to claim it, to store it, to suck from it the juice of its meaning and what it means about what I should do the next time and so forth. And even that doesn't hurt anything.
Yeah, it doesn't. It just feels good, actually.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt anything.
Yeah.
That whole scenery doesn't hurt anything. And my experience is, I tell you again, that as the time passes with the absence of the cause of the problem, the aspects of the life that are conditioned upon the presence of the problem, they just don't show up anymore. And an aspect of this that I speak of would be the idea that there's a right way to sit and a wrong way to sleep. That idea just will not show up. Someday it just won't appear. And you might even not notice that it doesn't appear. I mean, how would you notice it? Just not here, for God's sake. So that there's no need and there's no efficacy, there's no effectiveness in trying to do anything about that. Even about the kind of super-egoic judgment about right and wrong and so forth. You don't have to do anything about that. If it doesn't belong here, it'll depart. It'll head somewhere else.
I think a lot of things in my brain or whatever it is got cleared up. That's what I feel, actually.
That's good.
Yeah, a lot of my misunderstandings
That's
probably. Good. Yeah, it's getting wiped out.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's good.
thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Life is simple.
Yeah.
Yes. Life is simple. Life is clean. Life is not complicated. It's not sticky. It's clean. It's simple. Requires no intervention. Life speaks for itself. That sounds like a really good title for something.
John, that's funny that you must say that, because that's exactly what I wanted to talk about.
Uh-huh.
For me, the the most significant thing that I'm taking away from what I've heard thus far is when you said, life speaks for itself. And I guess the reason why is because I think I've been wanting to speak for life.
Yes, of course, we all have.
And that, when I'm looking at myself, seeing like what's, how do I want to, solve this problem in my life? It's not so much anxiety or the need for love, but the need to understand.
Yes.
And I realized that that's just never going to stop unless I
it
let life
does.
speak.
Unless it does.
Unless it does.
Yeah.
But there seems to also...
But can you see this? This is important. There's nothing you can do to let life speak. Life is always speaking for itself.
Right.
There's nothing you can do to prevent yourself from intervening and trying to interfere in that process. This is an effect that has arisen from the deep and desperate need to solve something, to do something. Since it's an effect, nothing can be done about it.
Yeah.
It will just vanish on its own.
Yeah, but that's what I'm seeing, that the vanishing is just happening. It's like, oh, I don't even have to do this anymore.
Right.
And the life has been speaking all along.
Yep. That's right.
But it sounds clearer now.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's because a lot of the noise is beginning to fade.
Right. So that's it. Thanks.
This is great news. I'm very happy to hear this, Tomas. Yeah. It's so stunning that and of course this has been turned into a spiritual teaching, right? Do nothing. You don't have to do anything. Everything's okay. You don't have to do anything. And then we get ourselves all screwed up trying to figure out, how do I do nothing? Right? How do I do that? Well, I'm not doing nothing just because I'm sitting here. I'm still doing something, right? I'm sitting here, right? And so forth and so on. When the problem goes, the effects go. It's just as simple as that. And nothing else will make them depart except the resolution of the core problem, which is, as I've said until I'm blue in the face, the idea that there is a problem. When that goes, the effects go.
Amen.
Amen. Hallelujah. Praise God. Come on.
This is from what Mo was talking about, a little bit what Tomas was talking about. Because I actually, even though I talked about love, if I were to be accused of something, people have constantly told me, stop trying to understand everything. I mean, that's really where I've been. But the thing more important here is, this is really exciting, what you just talked about to me. So, I've had numerous experiences where I've seen everything be molecules, where I've been filled with bliss, where I've seen auras floating around. And it's been not fun.
No, it's not fun.
In a sense, because it's been going on and off my whole life. So, to hear what you just said to Mo, when Mo said, describe enlightenment, I thought, that's what they're all talking about?
Really?
I've been going to therapy trying to figure out how to be in life.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, seriously.
See, and there's a certain sincerity of purpose that underlies that. There is a certain perception of the actuality that underlies your desire to get into life and out of that craziness.
Yes, because what I was just going to say is that even in all of that, I was still experiencing myself fragmented, although I wouldn't have said it.
No, I wouldn't have.
I wouldn't have said that I was experiencing myself fragmented necessarily. I was just having the experience, but still not feeling like I was in life.
Yes, that's right.
Still feeling, I don't know what word to use, despair, sad, even in bliss states.
Yes.
And later in life, when I was a teenager, I started to do things like take LSD. Well, it was a very similar experience.
Yeah, LSD's pretty cool, really.
Right. It was a naturally induced thing that was already happening to me. So it has all felt like that can't be it.
Yeah.
That can't, and certainly we know that the LSD can't be it. Well, we don't know that actually because it is. I mean, how do I know that you shouldn't take LSD to be blissed out? I don't know. That's just a thought.
I wouldn't tell anybody they shouldn't take LSD.
No, certainly, and so I just had to get clear. I had to hear it again because it almost feels like it could save my life in a funny way in that I don't have to try to stop being psychotic and I don't have to try to start imagining I'm special. I can just be done with all that in the sense that it can just happen.
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about it
That's
at
right.
all.
That's right.
Because it's like not any different than me. That's stunning.
It is.
I don't have to try to because when I started hearing about the spiritual stuff, I can see how I could become fake almost and try to take those experiences and have them mean something.
Mm-hmm.
Or I was really trying to use them to find out if I was mentally ill. But they're nothing.
They're nothing. That's exactly
and they're
right.
you're still divided in them.
That's right. It's just more of the same, just a different flavor. It's the same desperate search. It's the same desperate need to find something, to solve something, to get rid of the problem. It's just a different flavor of it. This is,
That is incredible.
it is incredible. And the only task in your entire life is to get a look at you. All the rest of it takes care of itself.
Okay, thanks.
Well, I'm glad you came to this retreat, too. And when I was enlightened, of course, I wasn't as smart as you were. I did not see it for what it was. I saw it to be enlightenment and denied the certainty that kind of bubbled inside me that this is just another trip, man. This is just another trip. It's going to go. Can't stay like this. But I had no interest in seeing that because I was encouraged to see myself as enlightened. So when it actually did disappear, it wasn't a pleasant time. Okay, anybody else? Mary.
Hi.
Hi.
I
It's
was-
you.
Huh?
It's you.
Is it? Are you sure?
Yeah.
You talked yesterday about something that I hadn't really thought about before, and I'm not sure I'd heard you talk about it either. And it was about that you felt it was a crucial or essential piece of this work was recognition of that what you're looking at is you, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And I'd kind of like to hear more about that. I've been thinking about, in my years before hearing what you're talking about, I was inquiring a lot, and there was maybe a lot of awareness, a lot of looking. But there definitely wasn't this sense of that any of it was me. If anything, the conditioning I had developed was that I didn't exist and that nothing was me. And I was just...
Excuse me.
It's okay. So just one example that I was thinking about, years ago, and it came up when Roberta was talking to you about love. There was a time when I felt that I needed to have the love of a particular person, sort of romantic, but it was, felt so strong, and I just felt like I have to have this, but I was also inquiring a lot, and so I just, finally said, well, what is it exactly that I feel I must have? And what
Yeah,
exactly.
right. What am I going to
So I was
get?
trying to imagine, okay, well, this person's just, is just going to come and say, oh my God, I'm so madly in love with you, I want you forever, something like that, that
Yeah.
Trying to be specific, and maybe they would hold me. And so I was still trying to say, yeah, but what about that I really want? And then all of a sudden it was just, well, I think now from hearing you, it was me. So that woman who was hearing the love songs on the beach this morning, I thought she might not be that far off. Right?
Might not be. That's right.
But at the time, it was very powerful at the time because I don't know, something just felt like it blew apart. I just felt like a volcano went off inside me, really. I felt it was very powerful, but I didn't have a way to make sense of it. I remember walking around for a few days just like, woo, just so much energy, and then later feeling sad because I didn't have, I could remember what had happened, but I didn't feel like I had any access to all that energy anymore.
Right.
And now, so there's something different here that you're saying that feels important, and you said is important. And perhaps if I had known then it was me all along I was looking for, I wouldn't feel that bereft, that feeling of like,
right.
it's gone. How could it be gone? Because
That's
it's
right.
me.
But you're here now. That's all over with.
Right.
You're here now, right?
Right.
Yeah. And who knows what might have happened then?
Yeah. No, I don't know.
Right.
I'm not worried about that. It was just more wanting you to talk more about that sort of the personal aspect of. Because I don't know if I get it. This is me.
It's really difficult to talk about. And the reason it's difficult to talk about is because you are so lacking in any specialness. The experience that you recount is similar to the experience that I had when I met Gangaji. And I see now that what actually occurred was that somehow at that time, in that confluence of context and circumstance, that I accidentally stumbled upon the direct contact with me. But not knowing it, I turned it into a big melodrama, right? And that's the same for you, basically. Not knowing it. It's the same for Ramana, too. Except that Ramana ended up going to the temples in Tiruvannamalai and hiding out there and discovering some spiritual explanation for what had taken place with him. But it was the same with him. He didn't know what happened. Right? It was just took him. These experiences that arise I suspect, are most likely exactly what we were just talking about. They're accidental stumbling upon direct contact with your actual nature, which is so not what you would expect it to be, given all the fuss that you make about it, right? That it's shocking, and it shocks the system. The difference between that kind of experience, and that kind of experience is not that hard to get, and they are referred to pretty much universally as awakening experiences and self-realization experiences and so forth. The difference here is that when I speak of recognizing, it's not a big deal. It's not like, oh, that's me. It's not a big deal. And in fact, it's like recognizing your fingernail as being your fingernail, right? That, oh, that's my finger. That's no big deal. Recognizing you is no big deal either. And it may even go unnoticed that the recognition has occurred. So brief is the duration of contact that produces that recognition. But what seems to me to be the case, and I'm not infallible, but so far I've been pretty useful in speaking to people about this stuff. What seems to me to be the case is that intention is key. That if you are taking action that has behind it the intention and the energy is always the same. It's the energy of flailing about trying to find a solution. The energy of entering vichara is the same energy. It's not any different. It's not like some mature thing. It's the same energy of trying to find some answer, some solution. But if your intention in this particular implementation of that energy is just to see you, then when that contact occurs, no matter how fleeting and quick it might be, the recognition occurs. Doesn't necessarily, when I say recognition, I don't mean the kind of thing where you see somebody and recognize them, in a grossly conscious way. The recognition is much less than that, because it's no big deal, and it's so brief. That's why I have for long felt that intention is critical. That the main difference between what occurred in the work that I embarked in trying to do trying to find out what Ramana was suggesting to do, and what happened to me in the magnificent arising of bliss and 360-degree consciousness and all that stuff. The main difference is that in the earlier event, I had no idea what was happening. I attributed it to Gangaji, and kind of fell in love, and I had no idea what had happened. When I worked with, and believe me, I was really stupid, the things I did, trying to implement Ramana's instruction. When I worked so hard trying to get just this barest glimpse of what Ramana was talking about, my intention was absolutely one-pointed. It had no component to it other than to get a glimpse of what Ramana said was the critical thing to see. And I think that's the only difference there is. I've concluded that, and until I am proven wrong, I'll continue to maintain that despite the spiritual incorrectness of it, that intention is the critical component.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me. I mean, when you said that, because I've done a lot of looking in my life, looking to see who's here, and it feels similar to the looking for me, but it was always interpreted by me as, well, there's no one there. This is kind of amazing. Right. There's no one there, and so I don't know what the difference is and why it matters.
When you start out, right, with the assumption that there's no one there, right, which is the case when we begin this within a spiritual context, right, then it is certainly the case that what you see cannot be recognized as you. Because there's no one there. If you get a glimpse of something, it's not you.
It was, still amazing to think there's no one there, because we feel like there's someone here doing everything.
And the difference is the intention. The intention is to, and I had abandoned all of the vast spiritual understanding that I had acquired, because it was clear to me that it had done no good, that it had just driven me crazy. And the only thing that seemed stable and different than the rest of it was Ramana. And I wasn't interested in all the spiritual stuff surrounding Ramana. I was interested in his practical instruction and try to understand what that was and do it. Yeah. And my understanding of it was that what he wanted me to do was look at myself. For whom is this? Look at yourself. Bring your attention to yourself. Not your true self, but the normal English pronoun, yourself.
Right.
And that was the difference. I wasn't looking for true self. I wasn't looking for bliss. I was looking for me. And that intention, I think, is the critical component.
Yeah, so that I really appreciate you did all that work trying to figure out what Ramana was saying, because when I read him, I'm kind of tired of trying to figure things out, and I appreciate it because I do feel that you've made it simpler. And I don't feel at all in my life now like I'm not looking for big deals, and I'm kind of worn out. I don't really want to work super hard.
That's good.
Yeah, and so I don't know whether what you're saying is, I don't know whether it's true. I don't know, but I'm here and I'm doing this, and I'm drawn to do this. So that's where I'm at. And it's just such a relief. I was just reading something this morning about, this people going to this 9-day spiritual retreat and all the things they worked on at it and on and on and on. And I just felt so happy to just be here. It doesn't cost $9,000 to be here. And, I can just look at myself. So.
And I'll tell you something else, Mary. Boy, this is crazy. And that is that it is often the case that that which must happen has already happened for long before you notice that that's the case. And it's sometimes easier to see from outside than from inside. And I've been speaking with you about this for a while now, and you've changed.
Yeah, I have
You're
changed.
different.
No, I have
Your
changed.
countenance is different.
You
Your
probably noticed it
demeanor's-
before I did, but I definitely noticed. But I've done, other things too, and
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know what to say.
Yes, I know.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, one more. Was there one more anywhere? Okay, then. Tomorrow morning we probably will not accomplish much in the way of useful work. It's my experience that the last meeting on Tuesday morning is kind of, we're all happy, and which is as it should be. I have one more meeting with a small group of you tonight, and the fact that that seems to usually be the case for the last meeting doesn't mean it has to be the case. I have much less interest in celebratory expression than I have in hearing from you. Hearing from you with whatever it is that you want to speak about. Hearing from you with reports, with difficulties, with things that you have seen that I might not have seen. Anything. So, come tomorrow morning if you wish to, prepared to be serious. And if not, then come prepared to be celebratory. But I love you all. I'm really grateful for this time. This has been, so far, this has been the best ever. The most productive, the most useful. So I'll see you in the morning. Sleep well, enjoy yourself, and be careful. And look, look, look.